Okay, well, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, of course.
Can you tell me your name, your pronouns, and where you are in the world today?
My name is Stephanie Porfiris. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm from Toronto, Canada. So that's where I'm recording from today.
Welcome. What do you love to learn, and how have you learned it?
So it's a very broad question.
On purpose.
On purpose. So I am a member, just for some context, I'm a member of a teenage accelerator program called the Knowledge Society, which takes regular kids who are just teeming with curiosity and enthusiasm, but don't have anywhere to channel it. And it teaches us how to put all that energy into something productive. Most of the time it's tech. So I came of age basically in this very tech-focused program. And I'm not a naturally techie person. I thought I was going to go into writing, but then TKS came, that's the name of the program. And I found myself in this very technology-focused program, but that wasn't my thing. So I felt there was a lot of, it's cognitive dissonance. There's difference between what I was thinking and what I was doing. And I felt very out of place, and it wasn't the easiest transition going from just a regular kid to like being surrounded by tech prodigies. Like these kids are literally speaking at Web Summit, South by Southwest. Like these kids are like legit, as much as I hate saying that. And I was kind of the fish out of water because I didn't know how to code. I didn't know how to create like artificial neural networks. I'm getting there, but these kids like came out of middle school with all this knowledge, and I was just very much not a part of that. But through TKS, I found storytelling. And that was definitely my niche. I was able to communicate these complex ideas in a simple way. And what I didn't have in technical knowledge, I made up for in this creative knowledge. So I really carved out almost a reputation for myself. Like, for example, this summer, I'll be virtually working as an intern at Interact, which is one of Canada's largest financial companies, but not on the tech side or on the financial side, but on the storytelling side. They're helping me create a role where I'm actually, my entire job is explaining complex ideas simply. So which is the perfect outcome for someone like me, who that's what I do. And then about how I learn, and I stole all of this from TKS, which we'll get to a bit later. There's this concept, like there's a huge debate about whether you want to be a specialist or a generalist. Like, do you want to be the one with super specific knowledge, or do you want to be a jack of all trades? And there's arguments for both. But what appeals to me the most is being a specialized generalist. So it's the concept of being a T-shaped person. So the horizontal part is knowing a little bit about a lot of different topics. And then the vertical part is knowing a lot about a few topics. And then as you progress, as you learn more, that T turns into a pi symbol. And then there's 3 vertical branches, and it eventually becomes a whole block. But it's the idea of knowing a little bit about a lot and a lot about a little bit. Just being specialized and generalized in your knowledge. So that's the approach I take. Like, for example, what I'm going deep into right now is Python, because I know that, as I said before, my weakness is technical knowledge. So I want to build that up. So I'm going deep into that. And then the horizontal part is I'm learning about Stoicism, I'm learning about different philosophies. So I want to become almost like a polymath where I know a little bit about a lot and a lot about a little bit. And that's honestly like my guiding force. I just want to know a lot.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I really relate. I know I was frustrated when I was younger when people were like, don't be a jack of all trades, specialize. And I'm like, okay, but I like a lot of different things and I'm going to keep learning about them my whole life. And so don't tell me what I can't do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Who has been the most influential in shaping who you are today?
We're going to keep coming back to this topic a lot, but TKS, it's the Knowledge Society, the program I'm a part of. As I said, I thought I was on a trajectory to be an English major, which I would have loved, but I was going to go into it because that's all I thought I could do. As I said, I was good at communications, but I didn't have a passion for English. I just knew I was okay at that. So TKS completely changed the entire trajectory of my life because it opened up all of these different experiences. Like I say to people, it instilled in me a radar for unique experiences. Like the ideal example of that is the Alt MBA. I was listening to one of Seth Godin's podcasts last year on a school trip, and he mentioned the LMBA. I'm like, that'd be a good idea. So I Googled it, and I saw under like admissions requirements, you have to have at least 6 to 8 years of work experience. And like 8 years ago, I hadn't hit double digits. I'm 17. But I applied because the worst case scenario was the status quo. The worst case scenario was not doing the MBA, and that's what I was going to do anyways. So I applied, completely expecting not to get it. And that's the same thing for the Emerging Leaders program now too. It's for college kids. I'm in high school. So I applied to both of these programs, totally expecting to get rejected, but it's a unique experience, so why not? And for both of them, it's been a successful experience because I think my shortcomings are a lot bigger than other people do. So I might see my age as a hurdle to be overcome, but other people see it as a benefit. So it's like TKS is like the entity that taught me all of this. Like I don't even, it sounds as cliche as it sounds, I don't even recognize the person I was before any of this. It's super easy to say that.
That's awesome. What have been some of the most impactful lessons you've learned?
Yeah, and you'll figure this out with me. Every question always goes back to either TKS or the ALTS MBA. Like that's all I am. A collaboration of both of them. And for the ALTS MBA, one of our required books was The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And just a synopsis, it's about this idea that the reason so many people don't pursue their passions is because they're stopped by something called the resistance. And the resistance is just a name for something we've all encountered. It's that gut feeling that says, don't do that, that's too hard, you'll fail. I actually pulled the quote up here because it's like worth the read. This is from early on in the book. Like a magnetized needle floating on a surface of oil, resistance will unfailingly point to true north, meaning that calling or action it most wants us to stop doing. We can use this as a compass. We can navigate by resistance, letting it guide us to that calling or action that we must follow before all others. So it's the idea of using that gut feeling that says, maybe you shouldn't do that, as a compass to guide you to what you should be doing. Like, for example, as I said, I'm into communications, but I'm terrified of having my voice out there because one negative comment would shut me down. It would shut me down in terms of my confidence, not my actual thing on the internet. So recently I started a blog because I want to have a platform for my ideas to get out there, but that whole idea terrifies me. And that's how I knew I had to do it. Because that gut feeling whenever I thought of it, there was that sinking feeling, maybe you shouldn't do that. But if I can use that sinking feeling as a radar for unique experiences, I'm all set. Like that's what's going to guide me to do actual meaningful work. And because one thing I'm terrified of is waking up one day and being like, this is my life. This is all it amounted to, because I don't want to fall into the rat race. And I'm 17. I'm naive. I don't have a lot of experiences to pull from yet. But I know that I want to have a career that excites me. And I know that each day won't be exciting. Like in order to create meaningful change, you have to be willing to do the grunt work. Like I was an intern last year and I was doing the coffee runs. I was doing like the dry cleaning. I did all that, but it's like, I don't expect my ideal career to be only good moments. But it's that balance. Like I want to have a career that excites me, that I get up and I look forward to. Like at my job last year, even when I was an intern, I like literally go to sleep early so the next day would come faster. So it's like stuff like that. That's what I want in a job like 10, 20 years down the line.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I applied to the Emerging Leaders program and I graduated 2 years ago. I'm actually in my master's program, so I kind of use that as like hey, I am still a student. Yeah. But no, I relate to that because, again, not only have I thought about doing this podcast, but I've thought about blogging for a long time. And right before the finalist interview, I watched a video by Seth Godin, and he was like, you should blog every day, not because someone's going to read it, but because you're going to hone your skills and you have things in your head that are important. And so, yeah, no, I've been doing the same thing. And I'm like, sometimes it feels disingenuous, so I just won't publish it because it's not that's not what I'm supposed to write. But no, I really get that. Just pushing yourself to do stuff when you like this, seriously, like this podcast. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that. Like, no one's going to listen to this. Like, no one's going to care. But if I care, and if everyone in the Akimbo project that like got accepted cares, I mean, that matters. So
on that point, you're going to look back at this podcast and think it's horrible, because after you do so many, you'll think all of the work you're doing in this period right now is just brutal. Like, there's a very famous blog, Tim Urban's Wait But Why, which talks about like technological concepts and philosophy. Amazing. And it's known for all of its blog posts having little stick figures. Like, that's how he illustrates his concepts. He has text and he has like these little comics. And when he started blogging like in college, I'm not sure like the specifics of the story, but like the first 90% of his blog posts didn't have those stick figures, because it takes time for you to actually find your voice, but you can't expect to find it like 2 posts in. So in order to actually become, it's like the 10,000 hour rule, in order to become incredible at something, you have to go through the crap and be bad at it. You have to be willing to fail. And not that I'm saying that this is like a crappy thing right now, but you're gonna look back at this and be like, what was I thinking? Because you'll be so good then.
Yeah,
like,
no.
The whole point of this.
I mean, I want you to know it's even happening now. I'm like, oh, someone suggested I use this audio program and I'm not using it right now. And I notice, like, because I'm a video person, and I notice like our audio is a little crackly and all that. So I'm like, okay, I'll use that in the future. So even now I'm like, yeah, I can make this better.
Yeah, like, and the other thing is it's like a mantra in TKS: done is better than perfect. Mm-hmm. So just the fact that you're doing this right now, and the fact that this podcast is going to be done, like today probably, that's enough. Like, you don't have to go back and edit every single audio clip to make it perfect, because doing another podcast instead of doing the small edits is so much more valuable. So just keep going, mm-hmm. and the skills will come. Like, as you said, the audio is crackly if you think it is, and next time you know not to do that. So it's not like you have to go fix this one, just apply that to the next one. So done is always better than perfect.
Yeah, I like that. All right. So again, I think all of these questions are kind of intertwined, especially with all your answers, but I'm going to ask anyway. How are you involved in your community?
Yeah, this is completely, it's funny. It's unrelated to what I was talking about before. My mom's a dentist, my dad's a doctor, and I grew up in that world, kind of. And I always talk to my dad about volunteering at his hospital. He's an emergency room doctor. And I always wanted to be, even though I've got no interest in pursuing medicine at all, sorry, parents, I always loved just hearing like the medical jargon and seeing people come for help and then getting help at the hospital. I love that idea. So I used to, not anymore obviously, but I used to volunteer in the emergency room, and it was so different than any other part of my week. 2 hours every Friday, I'd be one of the first people patients see in the emergency room in Toronto. And I was used to like fast-paced CEOs, like C-suite people, like just conferences, networking, tech, like on a constant cycle. And then seeing people that break that cycle, like seeing people with addiction, with disease, and this is like almost a community hospital, so it wasn't like a massive trauma center, but just seeing people struggling with all of these different things that hadn't crossed my mind blew my mind. Like, gratitude is the delta between your reality and your worst conceivable experience. So that's why, like, when you tell a kid to do your homework, there's people starving in Africa, like that doesn't help, because that kid can't conceive of what starvation means. But what the hospital did for me was it gave me conceivable worst case scenarios, because I saw people suffering firsthand. So when I was complaining about doing my homework, when I was complaining about not wanting to do something at school, I had a worst case scenario in mind. It's like, at least that's not what I'm doing right now. So it gave me this like a well of gratitude that I can pull from whenever I'm being entitled and whenever I'm being selfish, because I'm human, I do that a lot. But also, I'm not sure if you know the Myers-Briggs personality types, but I'm an ENFJ, so I love creating harmony between people. So even though I was like the very bottom of the food chain, I was an unpaid volunteer at the hospital. It was honestly one of the best parts of my week, because I was able to help people when they needed help the most. Like, I wasn't just saving lives. It wasn't like doing anything serious, but like if you've been in the hospital in the waiting room for 6 hours, like the least I can do is get you a coffee, like stuff like that. Like I would help people in ways they wouldn't expect when they went to a hospital. And it was the most rewarding part of my week, because it feels like when you're in this industry, you feel like a lot of the things you do are self-serving. Like when you read, it's like just to make you smarter. When you create like a product or a blog, it's to make you better. So a lot of this, like you find a lot of your time focused on yourself. In the hospital, like the 2 hours a week, I wasn't allowed to focus on myself. Like I'd be on my feet the entire 2 hours, doing blankets, doing sandwiches, doing Tim Hortons runs, because we're in Canada. So it was that part of my week that completely contrasted from everything else and allowed me to have a whole other perspective that I could apply to like my professional life.
Mm. I love talking to you. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so last like big open-ended question. What do you think leadership looks like in a post or even current pandemic world?
Because everything is so up in air right now, we don't know who to trust. There's so many conflicting sources and everyone just wants to be told what to do. Not like stay at home or like social distance, not stuff like that. They want to be told that everything's gonna be okay. Like that's like the human spirit. That optimism is ingrained in us, and that's what helped us to survive all of these years. It's this hope for the future, and now because everything just went like crazy, that hope is being challenged. So a successful leader, it doesn't have to be from a certain industry. They need authority, so they need to know what they're talking about. They need people to have that trust in them. But the most important things is they need to be like a realist. They can't be a pessimist, but they also have to be a champion of like the optimism that is a human spirit. So it has to be that balance between, yeah, I know everything's crap right now, but it's gonna get better and here's how. Because you can't be telling people that this is the end of the world, we're screwed. You also can't be telling people, like, yeah, go out, and this is not as big a deal as it seems. So you have to find that balance between like, this is the situation, but we're gonna get through it. Like and I don't care who that person is. They just need the authority to be able to tell us, to have people trust them, and they need to be a realist while also like kind of going towards the side of optimism, because that's what people inherently need. They need to know that the future is going to be, at least sometime down the path, it's going to be okay. Because right now, it's not okay. I feel like a few weeks ago when we were in like the very heart of it and everything was shutting down, the school are going down, all of these institutions that we've grown up to trust are shutting down and telling us they don't know what they're doing. It shook us all up. So we need someone to, like an authority figure, to look at and almost take from them that, okay, everything is going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So my last question is, how can people connect with you to learn more?
Of course. Well, first of all, the first point of contact for me is my website, stephanieporfiris.com. A very long Greek name, so the domain wasn't taken. I'm on most social medias. I kind of steer clear from Instagram. I have an account. It's not super active. My mom uses it. I have Twitter at Steph_Porfiris, I think, and LinkedIn, just my name, Stephanie Porfiris. And then just like shoot me an email. I'm almost always on my computer, so I'll definitely see it. But yeah, this was such an amazing experience. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for, taking some time out of your day and trusting me.
Of course.